Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Cody.
Yeah, man, excited to have you preach.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And it was good to be back and see everything that you've done. I'm like, wow.
Just small changes.
Awesome. Yeah, no. Feels kind of familiar. For my days vanish like smoke. If everybody will join me in taking a deep breath and exhale. My life is but a breath. You are but mist. No, I didn't phrase that correctly. You are but mist that appears for a brief moment and then disappears. Thank you for choosing to spend a brief moment of the mist that is your life right here with Reno Christian Fellowship. Grateful to be here. Now, over the past 4 weeks, the lead pastor, Nick Delgardno, who has flown overseas to Australia, but he will be back. He has been leading this church through a series called Bless. And Bless is an acronym, BLESS. And Nick recommended that if we want to live as a blessing to those around us, that one of the first things that we need to do is to begin with prayer. Begin with prayer. Talk with God about the people that He's put in your life and ask Him to provide the opportunities that you need in order to be a blessing in the lives of those around you. Nick then thought it might be a good idea to listen. Listen. Take some time to listen to their stories. Close your mouth. Don't close your ears. Close your mouth. Open your ears and listen to their story, not so that you can fix them, not so that you can get some dirt on them that you can kind of present to them later on. Don't do that. But we take the time to listen to their story. Like my wife, Michelle, will share with me. She'll say, I'm not asking you to fix it. I'm just asking you to listen. Listen, right? Listen. Another great thing that we can do is eat. Anybody like to eat? Yeah, I like to eat. Father's Day, I'm sure lots of you guys are going to be going and eating today. I don't know what that has to do with being a father, but something about it. Barbecue grills are going, stuff like that. But who doesn't love to eat? And there's just something special, something kind of disarming whenever you gather around a table with people and you eat together. Jesus did that all throughout His ministry. He ate with people. And today we're going to consider the word serve. And next week, if they let me come back, we're going to consider how we might share our story, all right? Share our story, your faith story in Jesus. Now, if it's your first time with Reno Christian Fellowship, whether you share that faith story or not, maybe you don't have a faith story in your mind. I just want to say welcome. I also want to say that you can rest assured that even though this is like week 5, I believe, of this series, that today's discussion is going to stand on its own. So if you're like, I just got here, I can't believe I missed all that, it's okay. And you can go back on YouTube and you can get yourself caught up if you desire to do that, regardless of where you're at in your faith journey. As Cody shared, my name's David Parker. Great to be back with you all. I served as worship pastor prior to my wife and I moving down to Meadview, Arizona to plant a church there called Small Town USA. Actually, it's called Small Town Church because Small Town USA was already taken in the state of Arizona. I doubt it was a church, but so we're known as Small Town Church. But I'm so grateful to have my wife, Michelle, here with me today. Yes, I am. Yes, you can do that. Because I was batching it. Yeah, for about a week's worth of time, I was batching it. I was starving to death. I didn't know how to take care of myself. It was terrible. I don't even want to take her back home where she's going to see what the place looks like. I'm sorry. I just apologize ahead of time. It's not really true. It looks beautiful. It's fabulous. But she was in San Antonio with our daughter and son-in-law for my daughter's baby shower. Yes. So grandbaby number 8 is on the way. And it really is amazing. I mean, grandbaby number 8, it is amazing how much we can experience in the mist that is our brief life. First breath, first step, first words, daddy. Happy Father's Day to everybody. First love, first kiss. Think of all of the firsts, so many firsts. But what I want to do for a brief moment is I want us to rewind our lives. Everybody in the room, rewind your lives way, way, way back. And here is a question for you. How many of you, by a show of hands, can recall the very first thing you ever saw? Now, don't get theoretical on me. Don't be, well, I was 22 and my eyes were opened. No, I'm not talking about that. Not like the first time you feel like, oh, and then I really saw the world with clarity. I mean, actually, the first thing you ever saw. Show of hands? Show of hands. Oh, all right, we do have a couple. I've experienced this before. But the vast majority of people are like, it would be a guess. I have no idea what the first thing is that I have ever seen. I don't recall. But I do recall when I got glasses. Because I thought that I could see just fine. And I'm like, I can see fine. I can see that screen just fine. I can see this just fine. And then I went and I put the glasses on, and I was like, holy smokes, are those dirty. But I went and put the glasses on, and I thought, how could I have been missing so much clarity with my eyes? I had no idea until I got glasses. Now, if you wear glasses to read or you need them to see today, now would be a good time to put your glasses on because we are going to be turning in our Bibles, if you brought one, to John chapter 9. John chapter 9. For those of you that are new to the scriptures of the Bible, John is kind of like a biography of the life of Jesus. And we have 4 of these biographies in what we call our New Testament in the Bible. We have Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And today we're going to be in John chapter 9. And that word gospel, it just means good news. So these are writings about the good news that is Jesus. Now, whenever I would hear the gospel growing up, I didn't go to church very often. I got stuck at a friend's house every so often and had to go. But the gospel never struck me necessarily as good news. It was like bad, 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 bad. Bad, bad, bad. You are bad, 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 bad. But Jesus came to save you. But I'm here to tell you today that the gospel is good news. Good news. God has made each one of you good. Actually, after he made human beings, he said, very good. I'm just pointing that out. You have something within you that can make a difference. You have something within you that gives you purpose. So we're going to be in John chapter 9, verses 1 through 7, and we're going to read through the entirety of these verses to kick things off. And then we're going to rewind and we're going to go take note of some specifics, seeing how God might want to bless us with what he has to share with us today. All right? So here we go. John chapter 9, verses 1 through 7. It will also be on the screen behind me to read along. As Jesus went along, he saw a man blind from birth. His disciples asked him, "Rabbi, who sinned? Was it this man or his parents that he was born blind?" "Neither this man nor his parents sinned," said Jesus, "but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no one can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world." After saying this, he spit on the ground, and he made some mud with the saliva, and he put it on the man's eyes. "Go," he told him, "wash in the pool of Siloam." This word means sent. So the man went and washed and came home seeing. So before we move on, let's take a moment together to ask God to open our eyes today. Well, God, we know that you are in this room with us. We know that you live in many of us who are gathered in this room by the power of your Holy Spirit. We know that your word is powerful, that it's like a double-edged sword. We know that it can penetrate our hearts and our minds and transform our very lives. So we ask that you would open our eyes today, the same way that you opened the eyes of the man born blind, that we could see more of you, that we could follow you more closely, that we could even see ourselves and one another more clearly. We ask these things in the name of Jesus, who opens the eyes of people born blind. All right. So I've come up with two different titles for today's message. And the first, if you're writing things down, is Sent to Serve. Say that with me. Sent to Serve. Good job. Wow, that was really good. So I think that this title is an apt title from this story because from one perspective, the story is about Jesus. That's who the story is about. Jesus opens the eyes of a man who was born blind. And Jesus, one chapter earlier, he proclaimed to the people in John chapter 8 that he was sent by God. So we're sticking with the sent to serve. He's later going to explain to his disciples, and that word basically means his close followers, his students. He's going to explain to them as he washes their feet. By the way, foot washing, it was a customary thing that servants did in Jesus' day. Today, just awkward. Just awkward. That's what foot washing is today. I just had to throw that in there. But Jesus told his disciples in Matthew 20, verse 28, he said, "The Son of Man," he's referring to himself, "did not come to be served, but to," say it with me, serve. The words of Jesus. Jesus was sent to serve. And that's what we see him doing in the passage today. The passage is about Jesus who was sent to serve. Now, later in John's biography, Jesus is going to say to his disciples, "As the Father has sent me, so I am sending you." Jesus was, say it with me, sent to serve. Very good. Jesus' disciples or students were, you guys are really sharp, really sharp. And if you're here today and you're a believer in and a follower of Jesus, guess what? You were, I like that. But a secondary title for today's teaching, it comes from a secondary perspective. And really, it jumped out at me as I was preparing for this teaching. For me personally, it was one of those One of those moments. And it's glory in the mist. Say that with me. Glory in the mist. James, who was the younger brother of Jesus, he states in a letter that he wrote to believers in Jesus who were scattered all over the known world. He writes in his letter in James 4:14, "You are but mist that appears for a brief moment and then disappears." So a spray from this bottle represents the blind man's life. A spray from this bottle represents my life. That's fast. That's fast. A spray from this bottle represents your life, the lives of those around you. It's momentary. It's passing. But where I come from, in the deserts of Sedona, I got to tell you, I bought this bottle because I was like, it looked like a good one, and it makes a great mist. And as I was in the deserts of Arizona spraying this thing, I thought, not only, I got to tell you, it just feels good. It feels good on the dry skin, the air cooling it. So in the same way, your life that is a mist, your life can be refreshing to people. Your life can be a blessing to people. And that is what we're talking about through this whole series. There can even be seen glory in the mist of your life. Glory in the mist. Now, one chapter prior, again, I'm going back to John 8. You're like, why didn't you just preach from John 8 if that's where you're going to be? We hear Jesus explaining to the religious leaders of his day, the majority of whom didn't even receive or believe in Jesus as the Messiah or as a Savior, but they stood in opposition to him. Jesus says, I am not seeking glory for myself, but there is one who seeks it, and he's referring to God the Father when he says this. Jesus says, if I glorify myself, my glory means nothing. My Father, whom you claim as your God, is the one who glorifies me. And Jesus will go on to proclaim to these religious leaders that he himself is God. He'll tell them this. How does he say it? In John 8:58, he says, very truly I tell you, before Abraham was even born, I am. And when Jesus speaks those words, referring to himself with the very name that God had used to reveal himself to Moses at the burning bush, I am. The religious leaders pick up stones because their plan is to execute Jesus on the spot because he himself was claiming to be God. Now, those of you who get geeked out by connecting dots within the scriptures, I've got a little nugget for you right here, okay? So, see if I can get this right. Moses represented the law that was given by God. God gave the law through Moses, okay? And the religious leaders of Jesus' day represented the law. They would say that they sat in the seat of, actually Jesus says, they sit in the seat of Moses. And they're supposed to be bringing clarity to the law. Back in Moses' day, God, the great I am, revealed himself to Moses, proclaiming himself with the name I am. Tracking with me? God told Moses, my name is I am. In our passage that we just read, Jesus is standing before the religious leaders of his day, and he is proclaiming himself with that same very name, I am. This is the second time that God has revealed himself directly to the people of the law with the name I am. And these religious leaders get it. This is not something they are missing. They realize that Jesus himself is proclaiming himself to be God. So they pick up stones to stone him. And that brings us right back to John chapter 9, where we pick up our story. 2 titles, Sent to Serve. Jesus is sent to serve. His disciples are? You and I are? Very good. And we can see glory in the mist. Now, we're going to get a little clearer on that as we move along. Our lives are but a mist that appears for a little while, but there can be seen glory in the mist. John 9, verses 1 through 7. We already read it, so we're going to dive into it a little deeper now. As Jesus went along, he saw a man blind from birth. As I was preparing this teaching, I just felt like God saying, you know what, there are going to be some people in the room with you, David, that just need to be seen. They just want to know. They just want to know that they're seen. So for somebody here, maybe many here, I'm here to tell you that God sees you. God sees you. You are not invisible. I see you. You are not invisible. Jesus saw a man blind from birth. And he sees you today. And if we're going to serve the people around us, man, we have to see them first. We have to see them first. So slow down and see. His disciples asked him, Rabbi, which is a title of respect for a teacher of the law, somebody who holds authority. Rabbi, who sinned? Was it this man or was it his parents that he was born blind? So, see, Jesus saw the man. The disciples look and they see the mess that is the man's life. And they're like, what is this about? Jesus looks and he sees a human being. But the disciples, being human like us, they want to know, what's the cause? Whose fault is it? And they've built up in their mind, based on other teachings during this time, that it must be either the man's fault that he was born blind, or it must be the parents' fault that the man was born blind. They've got this broken down into an A-B kind of quiz situation, and they're asking Jesus to help them cheat on the answer. So, was it his own fault, his own sin? And I'm reading it, and I'm like, dude, he was born blind. He hasn't even had any time to sin. He came out of the womb this way. But the Jewish and religious leaders of the day would say, oh no, but a child can sin even while they are in their mother's womb. We saw it with Jacob and Esau, the tugging at the heel. We know that you can sin before you're even born. So the disciples have in their mind, the man could have sinned in the womb. Maybe that's the story. And if not, then it must be the parents' fault, which is a pretty common go-to, not only way back in the day, but today, isn't it? It's a common go-to. It's not my fault. See, how my mom and dad raised me was all wrong, or they treated me this way, or they did that, or it's my boss, or it's my wife, or it's just the society weighing down on me. And if I'm being honest, I'm a little bit more like the disciples, not A or B. I'm like, dude, it's B. It's B. It's your fault. You know, you are the common denominator in every equation you're sharing with me. It's your fault. But Jesus says, maybe not. He introduces a third possibility. You remember A, B, and then there might be C. It's A and B, or the answer D was none of the above. You know, Jesus is saying, yeah, it's none of the above. He says, neither this man nor his parents sinned, neither A nor B, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. This man's life was but a mist. And what we're going to get an opportunity is to see glory in the midst of this man's life. Glory in the midst. Remember, one chapter earlier, Jesus had said, if I glorify myself, means nothing. My Father is the one who glorifies me. My Father is the one who seeks to glorify me. This is my Father's doing. This man's setback is a setup, is what it is. This man's setback is a setup for Jesus and his power to be on display in the midst of this man's life. And the same can be true for you. God's glory can be revealed in the midst that is your life. The same way that it was in the blind man's. Glory in the midst. I like that Jesus said, you know what? I don't need, basically, if I glorify myself, my glory means nothing. Jesus had no need to glorify himself. He wasn't like feeling bad about himself. He didn't have like a low self-esteem, you know. I don't think that Jesus was wrestling with those things. Why? Because he knew who he was, and he knew whose he was. And you do not need to have a low self-esteem. You do not need to look at yourself in the mirror with doubts. Why? Because you can know who you are by knowing who he is. He will reveal to you who he has created you to be. And even if he doesn't, just knowing that you are his is enough. You know who you are. You are a child of the King. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are blessed to be a blessing. He knows you. He has plans for you. He's prepared works in advance for you to go and do. That's who he is. Do you know whose you are? The Father wants people to see his glory in the midst that is your life. And this man's blindness wasn't a setback. It was a setup. Maybe your life and what you're going through, it's not a setback. Maybe it's a setup that God's glory can be revealed to others in your life, through your life. The Father wanted the glory of Jesus to be seen in this man's life. Jesus is basically like, Dad, it's Dad's fault. That's why this man was born blind. And we might be sitting here going, I don't know what to do with that in my mind. That doesn't seem fair. We're talking about God. We're talking about the creator of the universe. You know, I don't think that we can be pointing and saying unfair or fair. He's God. He is I am. So Jesus says, this happened. This happened so that the works of God, the glory of God, might be displayed in him. Man, crazy side note, this man isn't even a believer in Jesus yet. But we're going to see glory in the midst of his life. We don't even know if this man has even heard about Jesus yet. But we're going to see glory in the midst of this man's life. Jesus goes on, as long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. And if I was one of his disciples that day, I'd be in the background going, well, Jesus, I think what you mean to say is you must be doing the works of him, and we must be following along and watching. But those are not the words of Jesus. Jesus says, we must do the works of him who sent me. Jesus was sent to work. There were works that were prepared in advance for Jesus to do. Just like there are works prepared in advance for you to do. Jesus was sent to serve. Now he's telling his disciples, hey, we are in this together. You were sent to serve with me. And we, in this room, we are sent to serve with him. Why? So that people can see God's glory in the midst of our lives. In the midst of our lives. Jesus says, night is coming when no one can work. while I am in the world, I, Jesus says, am the light. Ooh, the light of the world. This thing's pretty strong. Jesus says that he is the light of the world. Our lives, we're but a mist. Jesus is the light of the world. Now, I could have chosen a floodlight, like a light that just washes over everybody. But throughout the Gospels, though Jesus had great impact, I feel like he was more so like this guy, that girl, this person. Those are the stories that we read. He wasn't as much like a floodlight, though people had heard about him and there were murmurings. He was more like a laser. And not only that, but I think that a laser has a bit more precision. A laser has a bit more power. Lasers are used to do intricate surgeries. Lasers can cut through the hardest materials. This is why I chose this light for Jesus as the light of the world. Jesus said, I am the light of the world. And after saying this, he spit on the ground. I joked during a run-through that I wasn't going to go, so I'm not going to do that. After saying this, he spit on the ground. And he made some mud with the saliva, and he put it on the man's eyes. I'm like, gross. But John's writings, I don't know if you realize this, John's writings are so rich and so deep. There is way too much to be able to unpack it all, but I want to take the suitcase and shake this little bit out for you because this is ponderous for many people. Jesus spits on the ground, makes some mud with the saliva, and he puts it on the man's eyes. Some of you are aware, maybe others of you aren't, that we're told in the very beginning of the history book called Genesis in our Bibles, that whenever God created human beings, he took some dirt from the ground, all right? He fashioned the dirt into a man. Now, I wonder, how do you do that with dirt, like with dust? Wouldn't it just like crumble and all it seems like it would have had to have been wet. I don't know for sure. But he fashions the man, and then it says he breathed the breath of life. Do you remember we are but a breath? Yeah, we are. We are the breath of God himself breathing life into us. But what's going on here in John? At the very beginning of John's biography on the life of Jesus, John says, in the beginning, those are the very same words that are used to open the history book called Genesis that his readers would have recognized, John's readers. In the beginning was the Word, he's referring to Jesus, and the Word, Jesus, was with God, and the Word, Jesus, was God. He was with God in the beginning. Verse 3 of John, he says, through him, Jesus, all things were made. Without him, nothing was made that has been made. John, right there in the beginning of his biography, he's revealing that Jesus is Creator God. Right from the very beginning of the book. And here we come all the way to John chapter 9, and what do we see? We see Jesus, Creator God, scooping dust, wetting it with his saliva, and caking it onto the man's eyes. It's almost as if there was something from the dust that had been missed in the creation of this man, you know? It's like it was just missing just a little particle that he still needed, but Jesus, the Creator, was able to give it to him. So he puts the mud on his eyes and tells him to go and wash. John is saying Jesus is not only the man, But he is creator God, and you are witnessing with your very eyes in John chapter 9 a recreation account with this man. And a recreation account can happen in your life today. He's still creating. He's still making mud. He's still grabbing the dust and filling in the gaps that need to be filled in. Who has cracks that need to be healed? Jesus can do that. Who has something missing in your life? Jesus can fill that. His glory can be revealed in the midst of your life. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam. And this word means sent. So Jesus, sent by the Father. The blind man, sent by Jesus to a pool called Sent. I feel like John is getting at something. And a question I have for you is, where is God sending you? Who is God sending you to today? God sent Jesus to the man born blind. We're talking about serving others. We were sent to serve. Who is God sending you to? So the man went. He went to where he was sent, and he washed, and he came home seeing. Question, pop quiz. I don't know that there's a correct answer, so feel free to participate. What if the man never went to where he was sent? Would his eyes have been healed? I would say I would doubt it. I doubt it. I think that he had to go to where he was sent in order to be healed. I think that obedience is a part, it plays a role in how we interact with God, with the great I am. I guess we'll never know, because the man went to where he was sent and he washed according to the word, and his eyes, they were opened. So I wonder, do you think the man born blind remembers the first thing he ever saw? Maybe it was his own reflection. Maybe it was his own healed eyes that he first sees staring back at him. Maybe it wasn't only the first time the man physically saw himself, which we know it was, but maybe it was the first time the man's eyes were opened to possibility. Some of us here today need our eyes opened to possibility. Your life is but a mist, but Jesus, the light of the world, he shows up in the mist. This is where Jesus does his best work. It's in the mist of your life. You can't see him, and then somebody crosses your path carrying his spirit and walking in alignment with who he is, and you're like, I see him. I see him. And once we see him, we can never be the same. We can never be the same. I was a freshman in college. Like I said, I'd been to church a handful of times, and every time, man, at the end, every head bowed, every eye closed. If you don't know that you know that you know, then raise your hand. Oh, you know, I'm raising my hand. There was even one time, I know that the camera's probably not going to be able to follow me on this, but there was one time in my growing up years that I was at church with a friend. It was the raise a hand thing, and then the pastor went the next step, And now, for those of you who raise your hand, all you got to do is get up and walk down this aisle. And I don't know what was going on with my legs, but they were like, oh, what is going on right now? But I'm telling you, there's a difference between having just like this blip of a moment and actually seeing Jesus. Not only in somebody else's life. This man, when I was a freshman down on the stage, I was in the balcony. Weren't we in the balcony? I was in the balcony. And we're among thousands of people, and he's proclaiming the gospel. And I saw in this man's life, I saw the glory of God. I saw the glory of God in some of the people in the room. And I thought, I got to have some of that. And so my feet carried me all the way down to the front. And I stood behind a microphone in front of thousands of people, along with a lot of other people. And I proclaimed Jesus as my Lord. From that day on, I don't know how, but it was like this for me. And I actually saw myself for who God had created me to be. And I've been perfect ever since. Now, see, here's the problem. Our life is but a mist, and there are times in our lives when we're like living it over here. It's like, yeah, Jesus, I think I'm going back here. I'm going to go over here and do this thing. And Jesus is like, that isn't in alignment with who I am. You have to be living in this area in order for people to see his glory in your life. So I don't know how God's glory has shown up in your life. How or if his light has penetrated your heart. Maybe, who knows, maybe he's opening your eyes today. That would be amazing, God. To have some eyes open today, to have some hearts penetrated today, to have people seeing themselves for the first time today. And I believe that you can do that. And I ask that you would do that. But what we're talking about in this series is serving, right? So, one final story and I'll close. Michelle and I moved into a house in, we were serving at a church north of Chicago. And as we were moving in, there were all sorts of people that were helping us move in. And the Timcos were our neighbors across the street, and they saw these people helping us move in. Once we got moved in, they were like, who's that? Who are all those people? Oh, it's a church, people from our church. I'm like, wow. We got to know the Timcos. Our kids played together. We hung out some. And then the time came for us to move out of that house and into a house that we had renovated and remodeled. And once again, guess who shows up? Those people. Timcos were like, is that the church? Yeah, that's church showing up. So we moved away to another neighborhood, and wouldn't you know it, a handful of weeks later, who shows up at church on a Sunday morning? The Timcos. Why? They said, well, whenever we saw what community can look like, people coming together like that, we thought, we got to check this out. See, when you're sent to serve, you may not even know what's going on in its entirety. But God can make a difference in the mist that's your life. So, how can you live as a blessing to those around you? You can begin with prayer. You can listen to their story. You can eat together. You can serve them that they might see God's glory in the mist that's your life. And who knows, maybe you'll even get to share your story. We are but mist. Everybody take a deep breath and exhale. Our lives are but a breath. For our days vanish like smoke. So make the most of them.